Okay, so this is the May 3rd Town of Groton Conservation Commission meeting. Chair is Larry Dunn. My name is Bruce Lofgren from the Office of Planning and Development Services. If any members of the public would like to speak, they can do so during the public communications portion of the agenda. You can do so by raising your virtual hand. The chairman will call on you one by one. With that, Claire, if you'd like to take the roll call and start the meeting.
All right, let's, okay, we got Larry Dunn, the chair. I'm going to go by my screen. Tom
Olson, board member. I also like to note that Michelle was listed originally as a participant rather than a attendee. Okay.
Put her in.
Okay. Thank you.
Kristen,
Distante member.
right? You're supposed to say your name, Ray.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say it. Ray Rafferty, Vice Chair.
Right? Ann,
Ann Schmidt, member.
Karen,
Karen Scapino, member.
and Michelle.
Michelle Fitzpatrick, secretary, and I never get a participant code, so I'm always stuck in the room until you let me in.
Maybe we have your wrong email. I'll check it.
Yeah, because I sent you an email asking for the code, because all I get is the website to be a attendee.
Well, we are all accounted for, so that's good. And first order of business is the April 5th minutes. So, already, yes, go ahead.
My name is misspelled twice. K-R-I-S-T-E-N instead of K-R-I-S-T-I-N. I think it's in section 4. I have to open it up again.
Section 4.
And I have to open it. I can't read because I went to the eye doctor and I have dilated eyes.
.3.
That might be it. It's
One.
misspelled twice that I noticed.
All right. Any other comments, Ann?
Bray seems to be missing from the member in the very beginning.
Right, geez, I guess.
And
I read that too.
Also on the roll call, not the roll call, the vote to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
What was that in? I didn't hear the last document.
In the motion to adjourn, Bray is also missing.
But he's in every other one. Oh, okay.
Oh, actually, to approve the meeting minutes too, in 2.1, he's missing. Somehow something happened.
Tom?
Yes, on item 4.3, open space workbook. I agree that we had a discussion about the Birch Plain Creek. There was a motion by Michelle that was then didn't receive a second, but I thought we had a second motion to accept the goals and as presented for the Birch Plain Creek. So I'm a little confused from my notes. If it's well, no, it says the workbook was discussed for Birch Plain Creek. Motion was made, but did not receive a second. Tom Olson then presented a draft workbook for Dry Stock Drive. So there was no action taken on Birch Plain Creek, but when I seem to recall that we did have a subsequent vote on Birch Plain Creek and approved the
Yep.
plan.
Yep, that's correct.
I don't
Yeah.
remember. I thought we didn't, but that's okay.
Well, then that's what I'm saying. That's kind of why I was looking for these to make sure that we had a clear understanding, because I walked away assuming that we did have a second vote and stuff. If we didn't, I'm in error, and so I will go back and make sure and make a representation of that. But that's come. It's not included in today's package. Thank you.
Michelle?
Yeah, Michelle Fitzpatrick, Tom, I thought, I realized it later in the discussion that do we even have, that we didn't have a second vote? I thought about it, but then I didn't bring it back up again. So I don't think we ever actually voted on the Birch Plain. We never got past the discussion of not adding the things, but we didn't do the final to accept it.
Okay.
And then my name is misspelled in that paragraph. I'm not sure if anywhere else. It has two L's. It doesn't. Yeah, it's got one L other places, but it's got two L's in that one.
All right, I know we discussed it. I know we agreed upon the changes. So you're saying is that you don't recall that we actually had a formal motion?
I'm pretty sure we didn't, because I thought about it at the time and then I just forgot. But no, we never, once we started voting on the other ones, I realized we didn't vote on that one.
All right, so we can go fix that. Now, it is out there on the website with the changes. So Tom, I believe that the changes made were,
Yeah, I made changes to it based on the discussion that we had, just as I did with the other ones. And then I was under the impression that we had voted on it. It was my error. I apologize for that. And I submitted it to you for subsequent posting, because I was under the impression that we had passed it, but not reading the minutes.
so that was Birch Plain. Let me, I do have it up here. Birch Plain, so most of it was on the recommendations, correct, the changes?
That's correct.
Here's a timeline. So hold on, let me do sharing, and I'll show you what we've got. Is that the right one?
Yes, that's the correct one.
How come I don't have a little green thing around my? All right, so you see the map and it says management recommendations.
Yeah, if you could just scroll to the bottom of the page to make sure that check the date on it on the presentation you got. Yeah, the 5 April would be the one that included all the modifications. Thank you.
All right. So these are the recommendations, and they did have the changes. So I guess I'll entertain a motion, for the record, to approve the Birch Plain Creek as amended in the April 5th edition.
Larry, sorry to interrupt you. Do you want to do this under, we can't make a motion today and add it to the minutes from last meeting? Do you want to make this?
No, I wasn't going to. This was just a motion for this meeting. I'm just trying to get it off the plate. So I'm just trying to fix it. So it's, yeah, so I kind of took a sidebar that says we identified an issue, and I'm just trying to solve the issue by having a motion, which you could then reflect in today's minutes of meeting. So Ann?
As I was reading the stewardship plans, there's an echo. Does anyone else have that, or is it just me? Okay, well, so as I was reading the stewardship plans, I realized that there's a typo that is in all of them, I believe. So Tom, I didn't realize, I was reading when under H, it says historical and recreational summary. And I kept reading underneath it as, so no known historical sites, ruins, cemeteries, or reactional points. And it didn't click that it probably is supposed to be recreational points. Is that true? So, oh, you just missed it.
You're correct. There could type. It's supposed to be
It's a
recreational.
real word. Yeah, so H, Larry.
Keep going down. Right there. Oh, reactional points. It's in this one also.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in every single one. So.
Yeah, it's all copy and paste.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
It just didn't click to me until today what it was supposed to be.
Supposed to be recreational. That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an easy fix, and I think that's typographical, no action required from a formal.
Yeah, that's, no, I don't need a
Motion.
motion for that spelling change. But just for the record for today, is there a motion to accept the Plains? I guess, what do we call this one?
So I'll make a motion for the acceptance of the recommendations and plans for the Birch Plain Creek stewardship plan.
Second the motion.
All in favor? Show of
Aye.
hands.
Aye.
Okay. All right. So Bruce, in today's minutes, we can record a motion for approval. That doesn't change the April minutes because it doesn't say anything, which I guess is correct. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
All right. So
And this is Tom Olson. I will update the thing to reflect the change date to today vice the April date and resubmit that with the corrections back to Bruce later this week.
all right, well, you got to give them to me because I
Or
provided.
to both of you, to both Bruce and Larry.
All right.
I've got the action to do that.
All right, thank you. Back to the minutes of meeting. All right, we had a number of edits and changes, which were primarily due to misspelling of people and omission. Is there any other item? Thank you, Michelle, for the one you brought up. Are there any items in this particular minutes of meeting? All right, I'll look for a motion to accept as amended the minutes of meeting.
So moved.
Motion.
Yeah. 5 people, pick one.
All right, I think I saw Tom's hand first. Michelle, I think second for seconding it.
Okay,
All in favor, would you please raise your hand? So we can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, it's unanimous. So Bruce, there are some edits and changes that I'm assuming that you recorded.
Yep, I got it down.
Okay. Michelle?
yeah, hi, Bruce, this is Michelle. I can come in and sign those minutes. Which building am I going to? The regular building or the annex?
The annex.
Okay, so I can do that tomorrow on my way to work if you want me to come in and sign all the back minutes.
Okay, I don't know how many are ready yet, but I
Well,
can check. with,
I can sign whatever's ready. And then just I'll, every once in a while, go there and sign what's needed, right? Or are you not ready for me to do that?
No, we definitely have some. I mean, we got a new administrative assistant that's working through it.
Okay,
And making all the edits. So yeah, I mean, we definitely have a pile that are ready. So you can
Okay.
send some, but they're not all ready. So I don't know how many times you want to come, but it's up to you.
it's no big deal. I'll come tomorrow and get
Okay.
at least some of them out of the way.
Okay.
Hey,
All right, we're open now, so you can just walk in.
hey,
Okay,
hey,
great.
Bruce, there's attendees out there. Have they been admitted?
Well, we're waiting for public communications, which is next.
Okay, can they hear us though?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next is then public communications. And we have 3 members of the public, and Elizabeth has raised her hand.
Okay, so I'll let Elizabeth talk.
Okay. Hello?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Hello, members of the commission. My name is Greg Peck. I live at 81 Main Street. I'm speaking this evening on behalf of Groton Conservation Advocates. On April 17th, the town council had one of their many budget meetings. And one of the items they addressed was a $25,000 item to put into the open space fund. The open space fund is most likely about to be depleted. It has roughly 75,000 in it. Because it's going to be used for the purchase of the Woodcrest property. This, in our view, big mistake on the part of the town council. The open space fund, which has built up over several years, will now go to zero. So if there is any need in the town will not be able to address it. Oh, excuse me, not zero. The council then had several amendments to the proposed 25,000. One for zero, one for 27,000. It bounced back and forth. They ended up approving $10,000, so there will only be $10,000 in the fund. Besides having something on hand for open space, recognizing that even 25 is a very small amount, but a good step toward building it back up. The whole issue of climate change and dealing with resiliency may cause needs for the town to spend money on open space to protect against climate change. So we're raising this with you because the budget still has to go before the RTM. I don't know, I've not been able to find out which date the RTM is discussing this section of the budget. They're meeting tonight, the 6th, the 10th, the 12th, the 17th, and the 20th are on the list. But I wanted to encourage the Conservation Commission to speak up in support of this fund and the importance of beginning to build it back up. And that reducing it from 25 to 10 is not in the best interest of Groton, our environment, or our future. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of the history, I know you did a little research.
Right.
And I think you had indicated that there's been some additions to the fund because of developers, but from the town allocating it, I thought you said from 26, there hasn't been a submission since 2016. Is that correct?
Right, right. I think that is true. And so this is like an important step in the right direction, it seems to me, after years of neglect of an area that the town should have been putting some money into every year. So there was a pretty good proposal, which was swatted back to just $10,000, which seems to us to be a very weak contribution, considering the fact that they have just committed to hiring staffer to work on climate change, and that this is an important source of funds over time to address climate change.
All right, so I think there's two questions on the table here. One is, Bruce, can you find out when this section of the budget will be discussed at the RTM?
No, I was not able to find out that today. I tried.
No, I know, Liz, I was asking Bruce
Oh, I'm sorry.
if he could find out through, the town staff when that's coming up. If it's coming up tonight, then we got a problem, but I'm assuming that this will come up later in the cycle, given it came up later in the cycle at the town council meeting. Then the second question would be, the GCA indicated they were going to provide input to the RTM. So I pose it to the commission. Do we want to provide input to the RTM on this topic as well? Let me open that up for discussion. That's Kristen.
Yeah, I was actually shocked when I heard this information, because my impression of the town council is they were behind this, working with carbon sequestration, making moves towards global warming, and especially after a year of the pandemic, when families in Groton have been out enjoying and using more than ever open space, appreciating it and using it, of all the years to cut the budget to practically nothing. I was just frankly shocked. I don't know who on the council was behind this, but
Well, it's not nothing. It is 10,000.
yeah, from 25 to 10. I mean, it's very, very small.
Right.
But then I actually sent Patrice a message on Facebook, because she was touting how many people had been using the trails and calling everyone out to the trails. And I asked her, why did the town, she said people were proposing $0 or $10. And so they felt that getting 10,000 was quite an accomplishment, apparently.
Well, that's a good political answer, I guess.
Mhm.
So I think the question I'm posing is, do we take overt action as the commission to go before the RTM? That's kind of the question on the table.
I think we should have a position on this. If we're not protecting, if we aren't speaking up for open space, who is in this town,
Right. I agree.
So I heard
I
two.
also agree. I also agree.
All right, so that's 4 out of 7. I don't know, Tom and Brady.
Well-
Yep, Tom.
This is Tom Olson. The thing was, we've got to be conscious of the process here and when input can be taken by our governing bodies. There was an opportunity early on for public input into the town budget to the town council. We made submissions on an individual basis. Once the town council has made their decision, and from watching the video myself, there was a lot of confusion going on, and it was a very close vote. And one counselor went to the bathroom, and it ended up, when the vote came up, he wasn't there and he said, I would have voted in favor and would have passed to the 25,000. He made a motion to make it 27,000 to be able to reset it and stuff. So it was on the a lot of things went on during that process that there was very confusing, and it was a split vote. So that's one of the things we have to recognize, is that there's a lot of pressure on the town right now. But at least they honored the commitment, and I have to give Mayor Grantowski significant credit for being into explaining the situation before the vote, as far as what's happening with this account. I think she did a very admirable job, and she understood it, and that's the end of the results. So our town council made a recommendation to the RTM. I don't see from looking at the schedule for the RTM where they're taking any public comment at this point. So they take the budget and they're going to review it at each with each subcommittee. Typically, what happened last year was this was literally the last item in the CIPs when it was even at a 0 level. But the CIPs are the last things that will be looked at. So I anticipate they would be whatever the last scheduled meeting is in May, the 21st or 22nd. So I don't know if we have an opportunity to put anything in, but we can, and that's what we really need to know is the RTM taking any public comment other than individual emails to individual RTM members as a constituent to your representative is about the only thing that I know that's effective. So I think what Liz is asking is the way I interpret what Ms. Raceback is saying here is this: is she's encouraging each one of us as commission members to be going to our RTM person. In my case, it's like Bruce Jones and from District 8 and the such, to make our voices known and to be able to influence the RTM vote, because you do have 40 RTM members that are going to be looking at this and making a final vote. So I think that's about all we can do at this point as a commission. And so while I applaud the action that at least we got a marker in there, we got some money. So and this was all part of the PCOD to put in place an annual input into this. The town manager supported it at the $25,000 level. It's because of a lot of issues, it got reduced, and that's going to happen. And so what we need to do is just remember for next year to get this thing up rather than 25, it should be, probably 40,000 next year. Is about the best we can hope for if the $10,000 holds. But it's very unlikely that the RTM is going to. Now the RTM can put it back up into the 25,000 also. So the only thing we can do is at this point, as an individual members, is to send emails off to the individual counselors that are on both on the CIP portion to the various members that would be listening to us. Thank you.
All right, is that your understanding, Bruce, of the RTM process or the budget process?
That sounds accurate to me, but I can't say for sure whether or not they're taking public comment during the budget process. I don't know. I've never been to one of those. So from what I've gathered from talks, that sounds correct. But I can check on that too and get back to you at the same time. I let you know which meeting that will be considered.
All right, so let's do the following. What I heard was a consensus to do the following. If in fact they will accept input that the commission should put forward to restore it to the original submission of 25K. If the public comment isn't allowed, then I think we default to Tom's view that says right towards our individual RTM representatives and provide that input directly. So I think that's the two aspects of it, and we need to hear back, Bruce, from you on what which option is the, I guess, allowable option would be the way to put it. All right. Thank you, Liz. We appreciate yours.
Larry?
Yes.
I did find online here the agenda for the CIPs, and the open space is on here. Let's see if I got the time right here for the open space acquisition will be on Thursday, May 6th is when it's scheduled to be discussed.
Well, that's pretty close, given today's the 3rd.
But I don't see anything where that on the agenda. That's on the agenda and that's there's a 2-page agenda that put out the schedule for the discussions. I'm just looking at the Tom website here. But I don't see anything that's going to have any public input before that. So I think the only option at this point is to be talking to individual members.
All right, so given that, the fact it's 2 days away, I guess that is kind of the option we've got. So I would ask each one of us to reach out to their individual RTM representatives and provide the input. And I think, you know, the point to be made that Liz brought up is that in 2016, well, sorry, 2016 was 15,000, or we'll start at this. 2017 was 0, 2018 was 0, 2019 was 0, 2020 was 0, 2021 went into 25 and got reduced to 10. So that says over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fiscal years, we're contributing $10,000 to open space reserve fund. I mean, it's not even spending it, it's just allocating it. So I think it's worthwhile to kind of position it that way, that says, guys, this isn't something that's, we're going overboard on, clearly. All right, other public communication.
I'm not seeing any other hands. If anyone else would like to speak, just raise your virtual hand if you can.
All right,
See
so
anybody?
let's move on. So item of business would be the 2021 objectives, section 7, short-term or the action item. So let me share the screen and short-term action. So there we go. All right, I assume you can see the, is that readable? Okay, just gave me a thumbs up. I did get input from Tom and from Ann and myself. So, so there are a number of open items on here. What I would, let me do this and just go short term. And as you can see, there's not that many of them. So there's really a focus on there. I think there's 1, 2, 3. That's it. 3 that are not, doesn't have a sponsor, if you will, or a focal point. So I'm just going to go quick and see if there is anybody that wants to volunteer on the spot. The 2.16. This deals with looking at the prioritization, dealing primarily with the coastal program, and which would be working with the Resiliency Sustainability Task Force, and at some point with the new person that's been in the budget that was just mentioned actually earlier, that we would be working with. Is there anyone interested in kind of a focus on the coastal aspect of the Okay, I see no takers, so I'll say TBD. And the other one would be working on the Crosstown Trail and working with the Parks and Rec about improving that. So is there somebody interested in the improving the Crosstown Trail aspect of the green belts? Going once, going twice. I see Tom raising his hand.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if this is really should have, the reason I didn't take ownership of this one previously was that I didn't know if this is part of the Trails Task Force actions and that we should just be coordinating with them, or that this should be part of our efforts, our overall efforts to get the green belts and greenway configuration done. I didn't know what your task is, but I'll gladly help support this one. If you want to put my name on it, that's fine. But I didn't know which way we wanted to focus it. And I was giving an opportunity if the Trails Task Force, if Bray wanted to be taking that as through the Trails Task Force actions. That's all. Thank you.
Which one is this?
7.2.1.3, point B, right here.
Why don't you put my name on it for the moment?
Boy, really small name. Hopefully I spelled it right. Thank you for that. Then the next one, which is actually the last one that's not addressed, is the Conservation Commission should encourage future applications under the NFWF submitted by individuals in support of Long Island Sound resources. Don't we have something coming up on that under the LISF?
Yeah, and that's how come I didn't volunteer that, because I knew that was going to come up on the agenda already. It's almost like Larry Dunn should do this one.
All right. All right, let me put that in there. And that's for the short-term ones. Now let me go back and see, are there any updates to any of these short-term actions that any of the focal points would like to provide input on? I mean, this one we're working on today, all right, so that's fine. The next one in terms of expanding and connecting the green belts. Tom, I'm assuming we got to do this one first. And then
That's correct.
Right, some of those then leads to a plan for this one. So I get that. Green means it's completed, so I'm not going to talk about that. Bray, in the last 30 seconds, did you do something on this one? I guess not. Okay. Let's see. The NERD process, I know there has been some discussions on that. This one says, let's wait till fourth quarter as they're chewing through that. This one I just got, so I'm with Bray as I haven't done anything in the last 30 seconds. Let's see. Acquisition strategy. Yeah, offline is I have been working on this one, but there's no new news to report other than it's progressing, and watch this space. So think of that as a positive response, guys, not a negative. But more than that, I am not able to communicate to you. The Zero Flanders Road one, I was going to talk about a little later. On that one is tomorrow's town council meeting is going to provide, on the agenda is to recommend that they submit a bid for the data center development of that property. We can talk about that a little later. It is on the agenda. The budgets, we just talked about that enough. And I think establish an open space education program. Now that's interesting. We've started a little of that with the web availability and some of the videos. We'll talk about another video that Ann and has provided. We'll get to that in a second. Again, as I'd like to get through my own view, I'd like to get through the planning piece and then come back and update the outreach programs. That's just my view. I don't know, Ann, if you have a different view on that?
You're muted, Ann.
I think we need to plan out what we want. Yeah, that would be a good first step. And then delegate. And I did say,
Plus.
you indicate as plus, yeah.
I put that in there. I put that in there.
Thank you.
I'll even make it a little bigger. Okay.
But yeah, we should, yeah.
And this last 7.4.7, that was one to delay on getting more, the higher ability to get public access and transportation to open space properties. Any update or status on that, Ray?
No, the more I've been going into it, the more I don't know about it. It presented more questions than answers. And one of the questions that have come up is item number 4 on our agenda. So it's a work in progress.
All right, so that's a quick update on that. So let me get rid of that. Yeah, Michelle, you're on. mute. Oh,
Yeah, I just unmuted. So it's Michelle. I don't know where it was on the list, but I guess we'll talk about it eventually. But one of the areas that I would like to volunteer for was to work with the volunteers for stewardship. So once we get to the point where we figure out what we want to do with maintaining the properties and getting other people to help us do cleanup or whatever, I volunteer to help be part of the team that oversees that.
All right, very good. We're going to talk about that, about what's next after the plans are approved. You're right, it's doing something about the stewardship of the parcels. So we'll talk about that coming up. Matter of fact, I think it's the very next, another 2.
Okay.
3. So hold that thought.
Okay.
And so I appreciate it. You know, again, I know we're all volunteers doing this stuff. So if at least we're thinking about it, maybe something will happen. The next item is 4.2, which is the Conservation Commission website and videos. And I will say that I'm thinking from the last meeting. So the town got their, it wasn't the town's issue, it was their vendor's issue, got the issue resolved. The website is back up and running. The last update I put in is there. And if I go to, hold on, let me do a little sharing. We're sharing. How come I don't see it? Huh. Oh, there it is. Okay. So if we go to, let me go back up. So you'll notice that in terms of news is, whoops, they flipped over here, publishes new stewardship plans. And so that is now under open space stewardship plans. And there was an intro that Tom and I bounced back and forth for this space. And then what we're doing is listing these plans. And these plans are now the PDFs. So if you click on Birch Street, the plan comes up, right? So, the plans will be kind of stacked up in here. I think the other thing that was we added, so I think, Kristen, I think this was right, the wild ones that got added.
Yeah, I never checked that it was added, but we got permission to add it, and I guess you may have added it.
I added it. It's there. It's done.
Where is it in the document, community links?
Community links. Yep. So you click on that and it goes to their website.
Avalonia. Oh, native hemp. This is a great resource if anyone hasn't looked at it yet.
All right. So that's there and.
But it's under Avalonia. Wait, I don't see it, at least on my screen.
No, they're just all separate. Avalonia, Groton, Mystic, Thames, Wild Ones.
Oh, you see, I can't see it on my screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. Mhm. Okay, perfect.
Yep, okay. So that's there. Let me get rid of that. All right, the other thing. The other one, let me stop sharing there. Let me do share again. Share sound. I'm going to try this to share this video. And let me see if I can find it. There it is. All right, so let me share. Did it share right?
Maybe.
Do you see a video of a bubbling brook?
Yep.
All right, let's see if this works.
It's Trails Day in Connecticut, June 5th and 6th. And
Roger,
welcome to
good
Groton
job.
Trails. Let's go for a walk in the Mortimer Wright Preserve. The preserve is part of the Groton Trail Network, which includes 334 miles on 44 maintained trails. It's adjacent to Haley Farm State Park, the Merritt Family Forest, and the Crosstown Trail. Let's go for a walk. The forest here in early spring is also in recovery, but wild flowers are starting to bloom. The preserve is located within the southeastern coastal watershed, adjacent to the Thames River watershed. Vernal pools, ponds, and streams with marsh marigolds are everywhere. Glacial features, such as this ridge, can be seen over the Avalonian, Proterozoic, Metamorphic, and Igneous rocks, which are over 600 million years old. The ecosystem hosts a central hardwoods and hemlock forest, with about a dozen common tree species, with maple, black birch, hemlock, beech, and oak being most common. The forest is in recovery phase, impacted by past farming practices, development, and now invasive species. But wildlife follows Groton's green spaces, so you might be joined by local critters. The Mortimer Wright Preserve might be small, but think of the bigger picture. Supporting Groton's green spaces will help preserve our forests. And as you walk the trails, you'll rediscover nature, and in doing so, improve the health of yourself and our environment.
Awesome, Anne and Roger. Awesome.
It's Roger, my husband. He loves making these, so.
So I got that. I wanted to share it with you. So my thanks to Ann and Roger. What I want to do is say, I wanted your guys' agreement to post it on our website through the GMTV video link. So is that sound like an appropriate? Okay, so that's good. And the invite I gave Ann, anytime that she and Roger want to do another one, be my guest. We'll place it. What we're gonna do is, when you go to the website, there's a link for videos. Let's see, what the heck what do we call it? We call that Value of Open Space Video Series. So we're gonna place that in there. I think we need, maybe one short paragraph and that you'd like to introduce it. I can add that.
Sure. I'll do short paragraph, sure.
So I think, yeah, so I can think, yeah, it has to be short. I only have a certain amount that's there on that one. So that's great. So I want to, for the record, thank you and your husband for that effort. I think that was terrific. All right. So that was what, now we have two. You've doubled our videos. Okay. All right. Now for the major part is the open space stewardship workbook. One of the open items from last meeting was, should we have a criteria for usage of open space parcels? And Karen did take a whack at that. Let me bring that up and see if there's anything we want to word. I think that's it. So I think it's right there. All right. So Karen, would you want to lead us on this one?
Sure. When I first started looking into this, I couldn't find any criteria anywhere. I went to some different towns to see if I could find anything. I reached out to Tom and Bray, and I thank you both very much. Most of what I have found is that there's no real, nothing really written. What they do is that whether it's the state or other towns, they tell you in a circumulatory way that you need to be careful of endangered species, endangered flora or fauna, but there's nothing concrete out there that says that. So I took my readings and did a little bit more reading, came up with this list. And Tom, thank you for your comments. I went to the two sites, the green plan at the state of Connecticut, read that. Again, there's all kinds of references, but no specific statements about how you might make certain areas of open space restricted. It seems like nobody's ever really addressed that because they're addressing so many other areas, and that's just an incidental as they address those other areas. I think it's self-explanatory. I don't know that we need to have a criteria. I think it's one of the things I saw in the green plan in section 4.3, I think it was that we do have some birds, and we have the cottontail rabbit in our area, and their habitats are to be protected. But whether they are in our open space or not, I have no idea of knowing. And there are flora that in the wetlands area, they're talking a lot in the green plan and in some of the other state coastal resiliency things. How do you protect the species, both water and land, in those areas as the water increases? And that doesn't really impact us, but it does impact some of our open space as the water as the water moves inland in the next few years.
All right, I think by looking at these, when you get to the recommended actions in each of the ones, they're pretty much addressed, I think. So I think I would kind of agree with you that, additional criteria is probably the wrong word. Additional factors, other than the ones that they already have, that your research didn't add any additional factors. So
No.
So we can check the box on that and appreciate that you did that. But given that, then I'd like to get into plans. So Tom, why can't I see Tom here on my little, give me the box there. There's Tom, all right. So Bob, this is an accounting, I guess, of where we're at.
You had asked me, this is an email, right, that you're posting right here, or what
Yep,
or
yep.
section of it? Yeah. You asked for an accounting of the plans that I've been passing around between internal to the subcommittee, so you'd have an idea as far as what we've been working on for this agenda for today. But I don't. As far as for what's next up, as far as I'd like to talk about things in general first. One of the proposals that we're seeing as I've been working these individual plans up is that there's a lot of repetitiveness to them relative to the type of property you see. And so one of the things that we see is that we may be considering lumping some, having a standardized small, what we consider like a small parcel stewardship plan, and then just list the uniqueness of if each individual parcel, like if it's on the green belt or if it's got some unique aspect of a historical site or a cemetery or something, just come up with some kind of matrix that of uniqueness, but having a standards plan rather than spending the time to develop going into the details of some of the soils and all this type of stuff, because it does get somewhat repetitive. So I didn't know if that would be, if anybody would have objections to that, because from the commission, from the subcommittee, we kind of thought that was a good idea, but just wanted to make from the large committee on a go forward basis, and that we may want to consider it as you, and yeah, I've got some good examples here, is that some of these that are in today's package that was sent in the agenda package that were sent out would meet that kind of criteria, that are relatively small. There's minimum trails or anything on it. It's just vacant land that the town's holding as open space, principally due to either for watershed protection or for carbon sequestration purposes. And so I would like to know from, if Larry, you could coordinate kind of a consensus that we could put together, lump some of these together, and we, as a subcommittee, we'll take those and put those together into what we consider a small parcel or vacant parcel, or we'll come up with some proper terminology, but they would all have the same stewardship actions and stuff related to them.
All right, so let's throw that open for discussion. I think, is there something with like size? If I'm like 40, 50, 60 acres, does it deserve?
These would be all less than 10.
Oh, okay, all right. So I guess the question on the table is, for parcels less than 10, is it appropriate to subset that into 1, 2, or whatever of common stewardship plans that cover those specific types of areas? So I think, I'm not sure, I think Michelle's hand was first. Apologize, Kristen, if I was wrong there, but-
Yeah, this is Michelle Fitzpatrick. Tom, that sounds really great. I agree that that there's no sense. I mean, for those small parcels, just do the general thing. I think it's a great idea.
Kristen?
And Michelle took the words right out of my mouth, as she often does.
All right, so I mean, is there a consensus? Oh, Anne?
Just along the lines of general comments, I was wondering if, just throwing this out, I don't really know, but for a watershed, should there always be some restrictions? Like protection of, or no dump, it seems like, I don't know, something that should always be included in a stewardship plan, if it's part of a watershed.
Well, I would think that there'd be a grouping of those that might be shoreline parcels, if there are that grouping, would address that. But Tom, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, Tom Olson again. I appreciate that comment because that's one thing I really had not been looking at when I was thinking about this. But I like that suggestion is to break anything that has a watershed or any type of watershed protection. We could make that a separate category, and and look at those with more and come up with specialized watershed protection group, and then have a separate carbon sequestration group. Or it was like carbon sequestration only group, and that could be put together. I think Ray and Ann and I can do that on a go-forward basis for the next grouping that we would be presenting to you. If that would be, I like that idea.
Yeah, no, I like that too. Yeah. All right, other comments? Right?
This is Bright. One comment that I would make is when the town was setting aside many of these less than 10-acre wet areas, they were doing it to protect the water courses through the town. And over the years, the feeling through the planning department was to have them in town oversight rather than in private hands. Oftentimes, many of these places are backs of people's property and you can't see them. And they suddenly sometimes go away or are shifted around. But if the town has the control over it, then the water quality stays up, the integrity of the water course and so forth is protected. So I like what Tom is suggesting to do by putting things into groups, because oftentimes when we look on a two-dimensional piece of map about a particular piece of property, you don't always know how to title it, where to put it. Water courses going through it, and the town had an opportunity to take control of it, and that's what was done. And the town's been very proactive about protecting these, so I think it's landed in a good place.
All right, so I think, Tom, what I've heard is a consensus that yay verily go forward with the groupings. But I think the groupings of, as you said, carbon sequestration or, watershed protection, a lot groupings of that nature rather than some other physical parameters. Okay?
Okay. Yes, I agree with you. And then, and so I will take some of these. That's kind of was very interested in trying to get some plans out here for people to take a look at. And I appreciate them being attached to the agenda tonight, because I think you'll see some of these good examples of these, such as the Kerrigan, where it's right alongside a brook. You've got some things up in that are actually storm drainage areas. And we already had one with Dry Stack Drive, which is all 100% wetlands. And so I think we'll need to go back and take a look at these and reconsider for that one in particular. Do we want to shift it over into this grouping for the less than 10 acres? But we'll take that on and come back with, I don't know if we'll get it for the June meeting or not. I'm going to be out of town here, but we'll see what I can have. But definitely by the July meeting, I will have a better handle on where all this is.
All right, very good. So what we want to do then is get right into the first one here, which is the Gary Court as one to kind of go through. Now,
Yes,
go ahead.
Yeah, Gary Court is a good example of a standalone property, and we put 3 parcels into this management plan. There's the one with that physically, 3 of them together make a big triangle that abuts onto on the right hand side or to the east of the plan. That's all Haley Haley Farm. To the south is Mumford Cove, and to the east is all either residential or the Amtrak yard. So the 3 parcels that were shown there is the water pollution control. That's all the buildings and stuff. It's 8 acres, of the about 40 acres here that are in total of this entire 3 parcels. Through the middle of it is just for everyone's orientation, is the GNS trolley line, the old Groton Stonington trolley line. It's a paved bike and recreation access that joins the Haley State Forest with the Midway Oval community area. So that bisects, diagonally from
Right in there.
the northwest to the south east corner or southwest corner portion of the parcel. But this one has wetlands in it, obviously going into Mumford Cove, and the Fort Hill Brook goes vertically, almost due north and south through the 3 parcels. So this one has everything in it. It's and so if you want to, I'm not going to go through all the issues that the standard stuff as far as the soils, and it's all documented there. There's critical habitat on this parcel, but these are the management recommendations. That's what we were focusing in on, that we agreed to focus in on the management recommendations, sections 4 and number 5, the recommendations. So this does show up as part of on the green belts. The boundary markers, signage, public. The reason I have left public use encouragement on established trails is that there's because of the proximity of Haley Farm State Park abutting it, a number of trails have been developed naturally by the local visitors from the park, just going over because there's no clear demarcation line. There's a stone wall that runs essentially the length there, but it's broken in a few spots, and people either walk right over it, or there's natural breaks in it that allows them both for walkers as well as mountain bicycles to get onto the town property. And they've been using it. There's some fairly well-established trails that are actually marked with spray paint, that type of stuff. Between the 3 parcels. So that's how I said I'm not in the position. I don't think it's our job here to take ownership of these and turn them into a parks and recs things, but it's just to maybe come up with some way in the future to just have the public stay on those marked established trails that are there and not expand them at all. But I think we have to recognize that the public is using these already, that there's a natural demand for them, is that we should continue to encourage that. And the rest of so this was the one that I did want to talk about in regard to that as we move forward from our discussions from last month. And then as far as, if you can slide down to number 5, because that's the other thing that we check on as far as for approval here. Larry, yeah, the plan there, right, there's your 10-year management plan. So the full part is, identify the existing hiking and biking trails. We might want to work with the NIMBA people, then and mark our boundaries as typical. Survey areas for users of their interest. The Friends of the Connecticut State Parks and GOSA both have potential survey partners as far as on these, because GOSA is as administrative support for Haley Farm State Park, so they've got a vested interest in it, and they've been working with the state park rangers there and stuff. And then obviously the Friends of the Connecticut State Parks. I don't know how much they're really into it, but there's been another area of potential for us to go look as partnering for future aspects of this. And so, and then. The only other thing is that because we need to, as far as the special context here, was to be making sure that we're working with Public Works, because they do have the fenced in area on the property for the sewage for the water pollution control activities that they have on their facility. So so that's the recommendations that I wanted to discuss. So I would like to make a motion that we accept this the Gary Court Water Pollution Control Facility management plans as presented.
I second the motion.
I have no further discussion on this one.
I'm sorry. I was recognizing Bray and I was muted. So I'm sorry, Bray.
Yeah, Bray, I have a quick question for Tom. of all the properties, you've done such a wonderful job of mapping these things out and visiting in your pictures and so forth. And I really appreciate it. The one thing is on this particular property is the only one, future sustainability with sea level rise because of the Fort Hill Brook area at the top of Mumford Cove is tidal. And it's tidal underneath the bridge, and I'm not quite sure how far up it goes. But when we think about sea level rising, for the flooding in that particular area, I think somewhere in your discussion that should be mentioned.
Good point. I didn't really have very much information of how we wanted to address that because and this is, you bring up a very interesting point because the format for these I had taken for the LTA, the Land Trust Alliance, and their format didn't really have a section in there, but I have no issue with before this goes to final version of adding some discussion in the resiliency in this area between the hydrology, in this section 2 here. I can expand on some of the title stuff in that. I will gladly do that prior to a final adopting and approval action. I will put some words in there to address the expectations of where we are and take a look at potentially because this is again, you bring up a good point. This is the first one that is in a tidal area, and so we haven't looked at this in the other ones that we looked at last month. And I can easily incorporate that into section 2 and put what I can do here, I think, is to take a look at the tidal maps that we have from Clear, from the state of Yukon, Clear, and they'll blow up one and incorporate that into the hydrology area. If that's okay, I will gladly update that.
All right, no, that's good. Hey, Tom, the one comment I looked is that I noticed, at least on this property, there's some trash, but it's old trash. In other words, it doesn't look like it's a recent dump area, but there are a series of old rusted barrels and other things. So is there a criteria you use for when trash removal or cleanup is warranted versus not?
I have not tried to get down to that level. I felt that any of those type of actions relative to cleanups and stuff would be addressed as part of the volunteer effort as we move forward in the action plan, and let them make a determination. Some of this stuff, where a lot of this trash is on this particular parcel is on a road that comes out of the area from the water pollution control facility as going towards the train tracks. And it looks like it was very accessible to be able to drive stuff in there. And so we may want to, and there's also a number, I didn't get pictures of it, but there's a number of concrete blocks and stuff that have been put out there too. So I don't know if Public Works has more of it. What I did do with this is I have sent this particular plan over to Public Works. I dealt with Michelle Maitland and she passed it on to Mr. Hanover, the Public Works Director. He requested some additional time to review it. And so, but I wanted to get it on the agenda for us. They typically have not had much input for their review. They acknowledged and said, yeah, this all looks fine. But I will ask Public Works to take this under consideration as far as on trash removal, that they may be willing to do this as part of, because it's, they have some vested interest in this area relative to the water pollution control stuff that would be going into the Fall Hill Brook after their facility.
Yeah, I think in regards to that, those concrete blocks and a barrier was actually put there to block access to prevent dumping.
Right.
Right. So I've been walking down there for 20 years now. So it's now a little harder to see because it's kind of got overgrown. But you're right. That road used to be accessible by a truck or something, and it's no longer accessible. I think so. Like I said, it's old trash. It's not new trash. But all right, other comments or inputs? So we have a motion Would you want to amend that motion with comments as mentioned by Bray?
Yes, I will amend the motion to include the incorporated comments from this discussion into it prior to final publication.
All right, the second, who was the second on that?
Karen.
Karen.
I second that.
All right. All right. All in favor of the amended motion on Gary Court, please raise your hands. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, Tom and team. There's good stuff there. The next one that you had on your priority list was Mystic Way. Let's see if I can find that puppy. Mystic, oh, is it Mystic Way or Mystic Meadows?
I believe it was this.
Mystic Meadows, I think.
Oh, yeah, Meadows was, yeah, so the only one here is Mystic Meadows. I'm assuming that was it. As the second one, so let's, whoops. Sometimes these things kind of flip on me. All right, so there's, so would
Yes,
you? Yep.
I'll walk us through this one also. Here again, this is Mystic Meadows is down internal to the area around Judson Avenue and the subdivision that's been developed over that area. On this map here, this is from the town's open space map. You can see where Route 1 is. The Mystic Meadows green area is what's being currently maintained by Parks and Rec. There's actually a playground on it, that type of stuff. So they have responsibility for that portion of the Mystic Meadows. Across the street, across from Judson, there's an like an arm peninsula that goes in, and then two parcels that are connected again down to another area that's part of Ramblebrook. So that we're talking only these two parcels that are in purple on here. And they're marked along the eastern side by the pictures up there and also at the very far end on Judson. But the rest of the boundary is unmarked, other than through some stone walls, partial stone walls.
So these two parcels here.
Right, the two tag parcels there, but the better representation. But you can see it's completely all forested. And a significant amount of wetlands in those areas.
All right,
Okay.
so let's go to.
Yeah, if you got, you can just skip ahead down here because the rest of it's all fairly standard. There's no critical habitats in this area, and then, but it is. This does show up in our areas being able to transit in towards the. Green belt areas where we adjacent. Now it's not directly on a green belt. Depending on how we do develop the green belts, there's a potential for it in here. That's why I still left it in here because it's fairly close to being on a green belt as far as on which way you want to be cutting the green belt. As far as really kind of focusing, getting down to the BB Pond from Pequot Woods. It's really like interconnector between those two large parcels that are already maintained. So these other ones here again, we're not advocating for any trails. This would be because it's a larger parcel. I recommend that this one be a standalone. It's not tied to anything else. But these are the same recommendations that we did for similar ones last month. And then so then I think we can slide down, Larry, now to the 10-year plan and the other portion. So this one is a very, very simple 10-year management plan, no special contacts. It's just take a look and do some area cleanups and then doing some boundary marking were the only two things on this particular parcel because the recreation areas have already been well established. And this is just the interconnecting areas for both the watershed protection that goes in, as well as the carbon sequestration. So I'll now make a motion to accept the Mystic Meadows open space plan as presented for approval.
Michelle gave a second. All right, open for discussion. Any comments or questions? Ray?
This is Bray. One comment is, you said there's nothing critical on the property. And one of the reasons that the town goes after wetlands is because they've considered it as a very critical and sensitive environment. So I would call, I'm familiar with these properties that you're talking about, and they are very wet. And I hold those wet areas as being critically, that we need them for a whole variety of reasons. So I would, not quite sure what your criteria is considering as critical or not critical.
Just to respond, Larry, this is Tom Olson. What I was determining by critical is part of the natural diversity database on their listing of critical species and that are listed. You know, those hashed areas like we saw in the last one down by Mumford Cove, that those areas are hashed over and identified by the state as a critical habitat area. That's I apologize for not being more specific in my statement relative to the critical habitats. That's what I mean. There's no critical habitat areas established on this particular parcel. I'm not trying to dismiss that the criticality of maintaining this property is just relative to the critical habitat identified by the state of Connecticut.
One other comment, it's something that, with all the good work the whole commission has been doing, identifying all sorts of town-owned property, there is a particular small piece of property on this that is not owned by the town. It is a holdover from the development, and it's still owned by the original developer in North Stonington. But I don't think he doesn't pay taxes, but according to the deeds, it's never been changed over to the town to be part of that open space. And
I know which piece of the parcel is the one to the south of this. I think, and I did look at that. I didn't know about the tax situation with it. This also was very kind of unique. If you want, Larry, if you want to scroll back up a little bit to one of the maps here, what's unique about this parcel is that there's a road that goes north to south that's on the property. You can kind of see it here. There's a split between the two. If you see the two blue dots there, the tags, those are the centers of the property. But it's bisecting between those. There's actually an access road that goes all the way through along the basically splits of two properties, and that's his access to that property that Bray is talking, which is to the parcel to the southwest of the left-hand blue dot. That kind of yellowed out area, that's the parcel I believe Bray's talking about. That's still, again, that's his access. That same road also provides access to that property, as well as coming off of the court there. So it's kind of unique, this whole parcel, the way it was developed over time. And so I don't know if it's our job at this time as part of the stewardship. Bray, are you proposing that I add another item on the 10-year plan to investigate expansion of this property and to include the parcel to the south? Because I can do that easily.
I think it's more of cleaning up the ownership or what the deeds say. That somebody, when they're making out a broad map of open space or town open space, unless you really know all the components of that, that's something that we can look at down the line.
Yeah, I think the question that's being raised is that property on the open space list, that, you know, the inventory list, with the fact that the deed isn't clear, or it wasn't there because it's technically private property, it wasn't on the list to begin with?
I can tell you that from I try to do my due diligence as I go through each of these parcels, but I have focused on ownership of the parcel. I do take a look at some of the gross and obvious ones, and I did check this deed. I pulled it up. I just saw that it was maintained by Mozzarella or some way, it appeared to be still privately held it appeared to be a developer as opposed to a residency. And so but I did not pursue and take a look at his deed or any of that type of stuff. I didn't do any further research because it wasn't on it wasn't clearly identified as town-owned property. Thank you.
All right, so Bray, are you suggesting that either he should donate it to the town to formally make it open space, or he pays taxes on it? Is that kind of where you're coming from?
Formally turned over to the town.
Well, yeah, that's I was looking at the pros and cons. So from his perspective, what motivation we have to do that, unless it says, guys, we just found you're not paying taxes on this thing, and you should be.
They're not going to charge taxes on it because he can't use it. There's a wet area that takes up a good portion of it. I mean, it's not something that anybody could ever build on. So it's entirely, most of it's all wet. Part of a small drainage course that runs through there.
All right, so I think I would suggest, Tom, that rather than trying to adjust the Mystic Meadows plan, is we have a new action item that works with the town. I think we should get with the town first, Bruce, that says we've identified, as a course of our analysis, we have identified this parcel. At the Bray's point, it's undevelopable. It's in the wetlands area. There's not paying any taxes. And, should we would the town approach the owner to just transfer it over to us so we can formally manage it? I think that's an action separate than this management plan. Is that a fair summary?
To me, is that what you're? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, there's an action that we're requesting of the staff. So yes, it's both to the commission members and then also to you, because if you're saying that's not something we would pursue, it's kind of hard for us to give you direction, right? So it's kind of an iterative process. So you think that's a reasonable request, Bruce, to the town?
Yeah, I definitely think it could be. I think we need to, look into exactly what's being taxed there, and yeah, it's certainly something that the town does from time to time, or a lot of times it's actually the other way around, where a property owner wants to donate a parcel to the town. But yeah, I think we could, if you guys send me an email on that, pass it along and do an investigation at the very least.
All right, Tom?
Yeah, I pulled up the parcel. It's pin number 260808 891369 at 0 Somerset Drive. The owner is Albert Romanella of Westerly, Rhode Island, like Bray mentioned. It's vacant land, undevelopable. Okay, it's how it's listed. And it's got an assessment of $140. So you'd pay a mill rate on the 140. So I haven't looked it up any further than that. But when I saw this, that's how come I didn't investigate it any farther, if he's current on taxes or any of that type of stuff. But the land value, it's $200 with an assessment of 140. So that's why what Bray's saying is essentially off the books, but it's not listed as town property.
Right.
And so.
All right, now, so Bray, could you draft a very brief request to the town that says, we've identified this as a parcel analysis. It's rated $140, in terms of town value, but we think it would be a great idea for the town to approach the owner to just donate the thing to the town so we can incorporate it into our open space planning and carbon sequestration efforts.
Yes.
I mean, that's it. I mean, it'd be a pretty brief statement.
I'll look into it.
And based off that assessment, I think it's a lot more likely. So I think it's definitely something to do.
Yeah. All right.
I'll give him the $200.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
right.
the commission has even agreed we donate the $140, Michelle. Let's not give away the more than it's worth. Although assessed value is 75% of its real value, so the $200 is probably correct. But all right, so let's see, so action of Bray on a note. And Bray, I would suggest, that you just sign it as vice chair and just get it over to the staff as a request, as supported by the commission. Fair enough?
Will do.
All right. All right, that's good. But I kind of like guys where we come up with these little strange things that we can clarify and clean up some things, even though it's a minor point. I think it's a side benefit of this exercise. So the motion is still on the table. Any other discussions? All right, time for a vote to accept as presented. So raise your hand. So it's a hand vote, hand vote, hand vote, hand vote. I don't see Bray's hand. All right, that's unanimous, Bruce. All right, the next one is Wells Road. Wells Road, here we go. Oh, composting. Oh boy, we're into utilities today, aren't we?
This is Tom Olson again. As far as I'll brief this one is actually 5 different parcels that are central that all abut the actual composting facility that the town is still actively doing. As far as they're taking the land, people drop off brush and stuff on the Flanders Road facility. It's transported up it's basically ground up, brought up to the top of this the old bulk waste facility that the town had. There's a big drying area. They got a tractor up there that moves it around and composts the stuff. And then the completed soil that's results after the composting actions up that are done on the facility up there are brought back, and then it's made available to the town people for use, and they come in with your bucket and shovel and go into the pile and take as much as you want, and then off it goes for use by the general public. So at the facility there's, like I said, there's some, these parcels go up from 40 acres down to about 2 acres or so. I've got the history on each one of them there, but it's a fairly unique facility, but it is gated, and that's why I've got some pictures of there. So it's not open to the general public as we had on some of these other properties. But this kind of gives you a idea. There's a lot of wetlands in here along most of the western edges. This is all red brook, so it's actually a waterway. And then up in the upper blue dot there is an open space that was donated to the town for the subdivision to the other side. And just for general notification, that the top yellow line across there is the town boundary with Ledyard. Okay, and so and then Avalonia actually has a budding preserve just to the north of the area here. So it's kind of adjacent that's supporting their Red Brook property preservation area. So I think that's about all I need to talk about. Since you're generally located off of Wells Road there off of 184. What's interesting is that this is a parcel that has interest from Groton Utilities, and that's how come I included their discussion in this area. Okay. Again, moving on to the part 4 of the management recommendations. Again, boundary marking things. What's unique on this one is I did say to investigate implementation of some tree planting opportunities, because if you look through some of the aerial surveys and the type of soils that are there is potential for some tree planting in here. Also, there's a large area that's paved that's no longer being used because it was when this facility was a bulk waste area, you had a bunch of turnaround areas, and so there's a lot of there's almost over 2 acres of pavement that is just sitting there that could be taken up and converted into trees and stuff from a carbon sequestration and minimizing of asphalted areas within the town. And so that's why I kind of looked at this one as that potential is there. Now, I did say that, and this one I did leave in the established walking trail around the parcel. The reason that this one is that while this hasn't been this is not open to the general public at this particular time, there are some very unique geological formations and stuff along the western, between the on the western side half of the parcel between Red Brook and working yourself up towards the top of the old trash mound. And that when I did a tour of it, some of the people did comment that these are very unique geologicals, and that maybe that we should be potentially developing this for general, maybe in some kind of control thing. You call up, I want to take a tour of this area. So I did leave that recommendation in there. I know that we've kind of tried to discourage use, and this one's very discouraged because there's literally a fence around the entrance areas to this here. But I think that there's a potential, and that's how I left this one in here as a potential recommendation, just because of the uniqueness of the geological activity in that area. And also that this is on a potential greenbelt area as far as how we're going to handle greenbelts relative to trails and accessibility here. That's about all I got on section 4. If you want to go down, scroll down, Larry. And so that's why I had the mark through the verification of the boundaries, and then working with Parks and Recs potentially for open space and trail establishment would be the coordination area. And then likewise for the survey for the possibility of tree planting opportunities, and coordinate that with the Public Works and Parks and Rec. And then again, similar to the Gary Court, is that we need to be coordinating with the Public Works, because obviously they own this property. And in this case, this particular management plan has already been reviewed by Mr. Hanover, the Public Works Director, and Michelle Maitland, and they concurred with all these recommendations and the statements that I made in this one. They fully concurred and reviewed it, and so I did get their positive feedback back and made any of the corrections that they desired at this, on this one. So that's come. I have a fairly high level of confidence on the Gary Court one, that it's going to be, it reflects the same type of inputs that they had. So that's about all I had. But this one again looks like, and the only other unique item is, if you can slide up to in the evaluation on number 5 here, is that I do talk about that this does have a special permitting requirements with it. And as such, but those are all under the responsibility of the Public Works Department, as far as for working with the state DEP with these parcels for relative to the surveys that are being done on a semi-annual basis for any kind of runoffs coming out of the former bulky waste facility. So I should just point that out for transparency's sake. So at this point, I'll make a motion that we accept the Wells Road Composting Facility Stewardship Plan for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Kristen.
Okay, and comments, discussion? Bum, 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 bum. Going once, going twice. All right, let's hold a vote on approving the motion on the Wells Road composting facilities. And again, it's unanimous. Well, you guys, there's no outliers here. You guys are all unanimous. All right. So the fourth one was Woodcrest. So, all right. So Tom, you've got the lion's work again, I guess.
Yes. Now, this is a 10-acre, a little bit over 10 acres. Woodcrest is, off of Allen Street here on the north side of I-95. Parks and Rec already, similar to what we saw over on Judson here with the Mystic Meadows area, they've already identified, and they actually have parks, playground areas in the two green areas that are on this map here. And then you have an Avalonia area that kind of links these two together. And then the purple red crest is what we're looking at today. And that area in particular is just 100% woodlands with one access point to the street that was when they did the subdivision. This was a subdivision that was turned over for that local area up there on Whittles Drive and Woods Road. I should point out that we could, in theory, can you go back to that map, Larry? It'd be a little bit easier for me to discuss what I want to do. Go back to, it's this map here. Just for clarification, and this is where I made the area, you see the blue little lake there to the right of the Woodcrest purple area. And to the south of there, you see a big white area there. Those parcels, that area is going to be, I have drafted up another plan called the Lamphere property, because that's a Lamphere Road there. That area is all town owned, but it was not designated, and it's just been left on the town properties. And so one of the things that we want to talk about is, should that be an open space area rather than just left on the town properties, because it's fully enclosed by residentials. That lake area is actually privately owned and not by the town. The town owns south of Lamphere Road, not to the north of it. But if we would want to be converting those into, and my recommendation is that we should classify that as open space. It was given to the town, by foreclosure, and so the area that was given to the town was the Woodcrest area, but this area the developer wasn't able to sell it, and so he bankrupt, so the town obtained it through foreclosure. But because it's been a foreclosure, it's been listed as available property for the town to try to sell or to use for some other purpose. And so this is where I kind of scratched my head. I developed a management plan for that area. And so one alternative here would be to incorporate the Lamphere property, the 11 parcels that make that up with Woodcrest, or to leave these as two standalone ones. I just want to point that out for a transparency perspective, as far as on how we want to be handling this, or to lump these together because they're only a couple of literally a block apart, that we can put this all into one management plan. So at this point, I don't know if you want me to table the Woodcrest based on the discussion with the Lamphere property, or that we want to just leave the Woodcrest and have a separate management plan, because it's the continuation of the area of Woodcrest as it's currently identified. So it's something to think about it. And I'd like to hear some discussion before we go forward with this management plan in regard to how do we want to handle. Do we want to take Woodcrest and add it to the Lamphere property, or handle these as separate properties?
I think Michelle got her hand up first.
Yep. So Michelle, I don't know how long it would take to get that Lamphere designated as open space. I mean, if you're talking, a year or so, then it might be worth waiting. But if it's more than that, I would say we would approve this now and then modify it once we have Lamphere available.
That makes sense.
When you again, this go back to from how does the town identify or what action has to be taken. As far as I can tell, it's been very haphazard. Unless we have to go to the town council or something, I'm not aware of what actions would be required.
Well, I would think, and Bruce, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we're effectively taking it off of the books and therefore would have to go to the town council, because you might have the economic development folks say, oh, we want to sell that, right? For more development, et cetera. So I suspect it would take a town council vote and then get the deed actually changed and get a protection for it. So I think Michelle makes a good point that says, I don't know how long that process would take. But clearly there's an action that we need to engage to go pursue that course on the Lampier property. Other kind, Kristen, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was gonna say that it seems to me like that looks like, just by where it's located and what it's close to, that it would be a really good open space property, and it would be a buffer for all those other, I mean, you wouldn't want to put a subdivision in there. And that's how, like, in lieu of giving money into the open space fund, they could transfer a property, and that would kind of accomplish the same end. But I think we should maybe try and find out like what is involved in pursuing that. Like, I think that's what Tom said. What do we have to actually do to make it happen?
All right, other comments? All right, so I think, oh, Bray?
This is Bray. I would agree with Tom to table this one. To find out what the possibilities are for that property, the Lampier property. Be identified as open space.
So we don't have a formal motion on the floor. We had a suggestion by Tom. And we kind of went in a couple of different directions. Is there someone that wants to provide a specific motion on this particular plan?
I would move, this is Tom Olson, I would move to that we table any further discussion on the Woodcrest until the Lampier property way forward is identified.
All right, Michelle?
Yep, second.
All right, I would say if there are no objections, we will, what's the right term, by consent, say that we will table it. I'm not sure we need a motion to table something, but so, yeah. But the other thing is there's an action that comes out of here, which is to determine what is required to legally provide open space protection to the Lampier town-owned property, whatever that section parcel ID is. So if Bruce, you could log that as an action for the council, for the commission. And I guess I will pursue, because I think this is something we need to get defined anyway. So I'll take the action to pursue with your department. What is the process for that conversion? Right, I think that's the first step. Yeah, Tom?
One thing we may want to get involved in here, I know under our charter from through the ABC there, as far as our responsibilities is to provide that inventory of open space. And I think one of the things that we probably should have done over last year when we had the parcel teams and all this type of stuff is get better clarification as far as on designation of open space properties. And that's one of the things that I had done on the, and it's in our master list here that we've got in the agenda package here on that spreadsheet, as far as what has clear deed identification as open space is clearly identified, okay? And maybe we need to get the town attorney to give an opinion as far as on what should we be doing here from the Conservation Commission. What is the minimum threshold for open space? As you go forward asking these questions and using this Lampier property as, and I provided you the draft stewardship plan that identifies the different 11 parcels and all that type of stuff. So I think it's it helps to have something to work from, and I think I've already provided that to you. But I would be making a recommendation that as you go forward to the town staff, that maybe we can get a legal opinion on what's the minimum that we have to do. And then we can be using that opinion as we try to take other areas that have been historically identified as open space, but that don't have the deed protection in that. A good example would be the Peconic boardwalk there. That parcel is clearly a Parks and Rec open space area, but the deed doesn't say anything about it because it's so old. And so, I think maybe getting a legal opinion as part of your discussion would be very helpful. Thank you.
That's where I was going, Tom, to get a process, use this as examples to get a process, and which would include legal definitions, et cetera. And then we can come back to all the other ones that are no deeds and address them on a case-by-case basis. So, all right, fair enough. So is that, I guess we got a consensus that that's the action. So we'll defer this one. And we got an action out, and we'll continue on to, oh, that was Woodcrest. So those were the top 4 priorities. I'm checking the time. I was going to, do some of these every month. Tom, do you want to slip one more in tonight, or you want to?
I would. At this point, I'm not ready to talk anymore. I think this is an adequate amount, and I'd recommend we move on to the or other portion of the agenda.
Okay, that's fair enough. That was didn't want to have everyone. There's a lot to go through, so that's fine. All right, so that. Any there's hands. Did I see a hand up?
Yeah, can I just make one comment? There's a couple typos that we don't need to discuss here. I'll just send them straight to you, Tom.
Thank you. I'll incorporate those.
Okay.
All right, very good. The next agenda item, 4.4, is Pequot Woods and Trails. And I think that was Bray, that was update from you, did I?
It is. Yes. Could I have a map of Pequot Woods?
We can get one, yep. Hold on. Give me a second here. All right, so let me share. Let's see, where's my share? Share screen. All right, so let me, whoops, wrong way. All right, what's the closest address to that?
Well, Bray, do you want the trail map that I made for you, or that I provided you? Yeah, Larry, if you could let me share, I could.
Okay.
I have the map right here for Bray.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 113 in the packet.
Yeah, it's in the packet as well.
Oh, it's in the packet. Well, you should have let me know there. I could have done that. Okay.
That's okay. All right, how does that work? Can everybody see that?
Okay, if you could, yeah, right there. Pequot Woods is one of 2 properties in the town that has a organization or a management group of people that have been assigned to oversee the property. Our property is the other one. Pequot Woods Board of Trustees meets once a year, and we just had a meeting a couple of Saturdays ago. The outgrowth from that, a discussion was made about the boundaries to Pequot Woods. And those boundaries to Pequot Woods includes the trail system that where the yellow trail is actually not Pequot Woods. And part of the blue trail that is close to the yellow trail, it was the main trail, is not on Pequot Woods. At the Route 1 entrance to Pequot Woods, at the very bottom, is not Pequot Woods. And there's 5 properties that are abut Pequot Woods that were set aside as open space after Pequot Woods was first established. So Pequot Woods was initially, the northern part was initially given in 1972, and a good part of the southern part of it was added to combine together to what you see as the green area today. The problem with the original 2 pieces of property was that we had a very good entrance at Sandy Hollow Road, but there was not an entrance at Route 1 at the bottom. And over the years, as the land has developed into house development, particularly on the east side of Pequot Woods, part of the developer was asked to set aside open space. He came back and said, where? And Conservation Commission suggested that that open space be about Pequot Woods. So what is before you is a discussion, what I'm about to talk about is an outgrowth from our annual meeting that happened recently, where we are Pequot Board of Trustees. One of the members that's listed in the original deed to be on the board is from the Conservation Commission. So I've represented the Conservation Commission for years on the board and have to be current chair. And the thing that with the good work that everybody's been doing on the conservation plan, the list that Michelle put together, and all the ins and outs that Tom's been put together on a whole variety of these properties, he came back to me and said, you know, how come Pequot Woods has a trail system that's identified as Pequot Woods, but it's not on Pequot Woods? And some of that property where the trails are does have a name. It's called Stanton Farms. And some of it is just open space lands that do not have a name, but just sit adjacent to it. And it's, unfortunately, it's not marked up very well on this map. So the outgrowth of that is that these adjacent properties where the yellow trail is, for instance, which is town-owned open space property under a different name, is to see if the town in some way can take these adjacent open space lands, even if they have a different name, and put it under Pequot Woods management. Pequot Woods management is not it's an advisory group to the town on the management of this particular property. So the town isn't giving up anything. The town owns both Pequot Woods and the adjacent open space properties. Nothing is changing there. So one of the members of the Pequot Board of Woods trustees is an attorney who works for the town of Groton. The group of attorneys that the town has hired for in the year. This particular gentleman sits on our board. I didn't realize it. And he's has sat on other towns' planning and zoning for years. He's very familiar with open spaces, very supportive of open spaces. And through Parks and Rec, Mark Berry, the director of Parks and Rec, Pequot Boards of Woods, and the attorney, we are looking to see if there's some mechanism whereby instead of having all these bits and pieces of land close to each other, we can actually put them under sort of one umbrella and say when you go out to enjoy Pequot Woods, the outline of the green area that you see actually incorporates those open spaces that were initially set aside to complement Pequot Woods be included in that. So they're looking at the structure of how the town works with transfers of property and so forth. And this is a new area for the town. We've not challenged it. So when we went back and the last property that we just tabled, the Lampier property, should it be Woodcrest or should it be a different name? When other properties around there are all part of Woodcrest, maybe we should just lump them all under one Woodcrest, but it has different elements to it. So because the town advertises Pequot Woods out on the website, on some of the maps, they include the yellow area. But yet the Parks and Rec maintains the trail systems here. But what we are proposing, the Pequot Board of Trustees is proposing, is to put it all under one umbrella. So we are, this process has begun, and Parks and Rec is on our, supports the inclusion of these open space properties is actually being under Pequot Woods Board of Trustees, since no one else has really been looking at them. And there's slivers of property in some areas next to it that people, the town hasn't done anything with it. So Pequot Woods would just like to have it as one, and so that the trail systems that are there, they're actually under the Pequot Woods Board of Trustees oversight, and not all these different little elements of different properties that are there, that if you really want to truly say, okay, well, part of the property is on Pequot Woods, part of it's on Stanton Farms, part of it's on something else, it starts to get confusing. That currently is in motion, and I'll keep the Conservation Commission informed as we move ahead on that. The second item is that one of the other board members, Pequot Woods trustees, needs to be a faculty member from Connecticut College. And the current faculty member is Professor Chad Jones. He's a botanist. And the last 2 or 3 years, we've encouraged him to do some botany out on Pequot Woods, to have a running list of types of plants that are out there. And so he has, in the past 3 years, brought out different classes of his botany classes to actually go out and learn how to do identification, and not only looking at trees, but also looking at ferns, looking at shrubs, looking at aquatic plants. It's not a complete list. And what he has done is that with each identification of a tree, he has set up a website at Connecticut College for Pequot Woods that has a nice picture of, let's say, a white oak tree, and it has its scientific and common name. And then the pictures that the students have used of the particular trees are not ones that they've taken, but something they've gotten offline, online somewhere. And so they, at the bottom of the series of pictures, they've identified where that particular photograph came from. It's very nicely done. And it's a beginning that one of the problems with the open spaces in the town, we don't have identification list. The town doesn't have any identification list of anything that's out there. We all walk through and we recognize the hardwoods that are out there, but we're actually trying to break it down to say, okay, who are the hardwoods that are out there, or the softwoods, or the ferns, and so forth. And so this is a beginning, and the thought was that we might be able to link on the conservation website, our town conservation commission's website, have a link up with his particular plants that they looked at one particular time of the year and identified. I saw he shared the website with us at the meeting, and they've done a very nice job. So we're hoping to expand upon that, but the work that Ann has done with the video, I think this would complement the video work on some of the other properties in town, as well as this. And the last thing I just wanted to say, when I was thinking about a trail booklet, one of the things that I wanted to do is, like Tom, when he speaks about on each piece of property, he's actually visited the property. On this particular property, thinking about redoing the whole map and booklet, making a booklet out of it, is the accuracy of the trails, where they are, and how well marked they are. So if you do something, you'd like to say, here is an accurate map of where all those trails are. And there are problems with this particular map. For instance, a very nice video we saw tonight on Mortimer Wright's property. The trail map does not match what's actually out there. And it's either the trail is on the map, but it's not marked. And so it's difficult to access. So these are problems that can be solved, but they're one that as more people get out there on the trails, you'd like to have something accurate that's in front of them to move forward. So that's what I wanted to bring forward, bring up to date what's going on with Pequot Woods. Thank you.
All right, well, that's a lot. So let me see if I can break it down. So I think there's three major areas you talked about. The first one is that to have a more comprehensive Pequot Woods management area. When I clicked around all that, they're all legally open space protected, owned by the town. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And therefore, it's not a question of ownership or deeds. It's just a question of managing it in a more holistic way.
Yes.
And so you've got that already ongoing, and you don't require any Conservation Commission activity other than yourself to pursue that particular action item. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's
Larry?
good. Yes, Tom.
Just the follow on to that is, I just want to confirm this, is that these type of parcels we would be assigning in our master list from stewardship perspective to the Pequot Wood Board, as opposed to the development by the Conservation Commission itself, because these parcels would be coming up in particularly when we get down to the less than 3 acre type of areas. These would normally would be under our responsibility, but we would be assigning these to the Pequot Board trustees for management plan development. So I just want to point that out.
Yeah, if what Bray's saying comes to pass and we get if there's agreement with the town, then you would be correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Also, I should mention that the one other member of the Pequot Board of Trustees is the mayor. And she was at the last meeting. So she represents the council, and she was encouraging us to pursue this and eventually bring it to the council for presentation. And I think it's the council who's the ultimate authority that's going to make this change.
All right. I would say, Bray, when that happens, then the Conservation Commission officially should support that recommendation. Right. So just
Yes.
keep it synced on that. Michelle, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I have two things. One is, Ray, thank you for explaining that, because I know when I did that list, there was, in fact, I think I have a note adjacent to Pequot Woods. I found a lot of those that I made the note adjacent to Pequot Woods on the list. So thank you for explaining what happened with that. And I'm guessing they're those same parcels that you're talking about. The second thing is for point number 3 that Larry hasn't summarized yet, but as long as I'm talking, several years ago, one of the Conn College Goodwood Nearing students, we had a land trust type projects with them every year. and they actually did some mapping of those trails for Mark. So they already did some work like confirming, you know, the trail that's on the map to what's actually there. So Mark should have the results of that study. So there's already been some work to try to, and I mean, again, it was several years ago, but there already has been some work to try to look at that issue.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Going back to the second point, which was getting back to the database or the identification of plants associated with Pequot Woods per se. And what I got out of it was, gee, Ann, wouldn't it be nice if you could do a video similar to what you did for Pequot Woods, and we can then link it to the database from the college on the plant identification. So I kind of heard that suggestion, but a follow-on to that would be who owns that information. So, you know, Bray, we would have to have either access rights or, you know, an agreement that there's not an issue with us using that data certainly for Pequot Woods, and perhaps in the future some other parcels that they may be done on. So is there an issue on any information or proprietary or not confidentiality, but just ownership of data?
I did not pursue that. That's a very good question. And I was going to bring it before the Conservation Commission tonight and see if there's interest in including his students' work, whether it's linked to a video or just a standalone. I didn't pursue it any further with him because I didn't know if there was any interest on the conservation side.
All right, fair enough. So I guess we should start there. Well, wait, I got to go a couple of directions. So Ann, is there an interest on yours and Roger's part to go to video number 2 on this particular property?
Yeah, we could do that, and maybe the student or the professor want to be part of the video and be the one, since they did the work, to be the ones explaining it. Right?
That'd be great, because then it kind of slants my next question a little differently. That says, you're right. If that's the case, then would he participate? And then we could provide a link and some other things to the more detailed data, because you don't want to repeat everything in the video. But that would then get back to the point of ownership of information, data, accessibility, et cetera, et cetera. So Bray, that I think what you've heard is well, I shouldn't say that because it was just Ann and I talking and you. So is there, okay. So Michelle put us over the top with number 4. So there is I guess an agreement there from the commission that we would like to pursue this, but you need to go back and ask a couple more questions about what is possible and what could we do or what they're willing to do to get the appropriate action plan. You know, the simplest one would be, you know, Ann does a trail video like they just did, and we independently have a link, right? This is, oh, by the way, go look at this link for additional data on plants, or there's some level of integration or some other plan that I haven't thought of, right? But I think that'll take some work. So I think you've got the agreement to go forward and have that discussion with Conn College and whoever owns that data, whether it must be Conn College, I assume, that owns the data.
Right. And the other thing is that we have to work around the college schedule. So
Well, absolutely. Trust me, I understand that.
okay.
That gets into the pragmatic stuff. First you get the objective, and then you worry about the plan.
Right.
And then the execution. So, and then the third item was trail map accuracy, which you had brought up, which is kind of a separate topic because it gets back to how do we have a trail booklet, trail maps. We've talked about that, and it's kind of on the ticky list to do. And it does get into that. I think there's an interesting point that Michelle brought up that says, if we could get, the students to kind of, as a project, to kind of do it, one trail a semester or something over, not that long a period of time, you could probably get something, reworked. So I don't know if that's a possibility. Michelle?
Yeah, the Goodwin students are every spring are looking for projects. So we can propose that project, and that's, you might have some students choose it or not, but they are always looking for some kind of, boots on the ground project that would be helpful from a conservation or environmental perspective.
Oh, great. So Bray, maybe the thing would be is for you to make a list of, here's the top 3 or 4, trails that you'd like to have mapped out for more accuracy. And if Michelle could facilitate getting that I'm going to talk about a project with UConn that just completing that I kind of worked through. But I think that'd be a great idea. They come at this with a degree of energy. Is that, so can you work with Michelle on that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, super. So are we ready to move on to the next item, which is, I'm looking up, okay. Long Island Sound Futures Grant. The town council on May 4th, which is tomorrow, is going to vote on endorsing the submittal of the grant application to LISFF for the Resiliency Sustainability Assessment in Downtown Mystic, and to authorize the town manager to sign all required grant documents to apply for, submit, and receive said grant. So that status is coming up for a vote tomorrow. And that's the recommendation. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens unless someone has a different suggestion. Okay.
Well, Larry, if I could jump in on Long Island Sound's future, I don't know if you were going to this or not, but I did provide a draft recommendation letter. It's very similar to the one you guys did last year, and it would just be the Conservation Commission endorsing the town submittal for a resiliency and sustainability study in downtown Mystic. Last year we submitted the application, and it was a really low funding year. I don't know if it was due to COVID or what, but we were very close to receiving the grant. That's what we heard anyways from the organizers. And yeah, they were really supportive of this application this year, and we really have a good feeling about it. But the more letters of support we receive from various boards and commission, the better. So I put a draft into the agenda packet, and hoping everyone could look at that and consider endorsing it.
All right. I would think if the town then votes on it, then I guess I'll go around here as I don't see any problem with us providing a letter of endorsement for that submission, but you got to have that submission first, right? The chicken and the horse in the cart, or whatever that is. Kristen, you had your hand up. You're on mute, Kristen.
You're looking for a letter of support before they discuss it and vote on it, right, Bruce?
Well, I am only because we only meet once a month, and the application is due on the 27th of this month, so it's before our next meeting.
So I would move that we put out a letter of support, and maybe whatever you drafted, you could send it to Larry, and he could forward it on behalf of all of us.
If it's in the package, can't we just see it? Sorry.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
packet.
Yeah, we can share it. Larry, do you want to share it? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can share it. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me share. Now, the thing is, where's share? Oh, there's share. I could go. All right, so this is. Oh, great.
That's the other one.
That's the other one. Okay, this is the one? Okay.
This is the towns, yes.
All right. So this is your proposed. I guess when I looked at it, I thought we could probably beef it up a little bit, but this is what you're suggesting we do. But as it says in here, there's a town application. So until there's a town application, I shouldn't be sending the letter of support, correct?
Well, I mean, we
They're-
would
they're
send it,
Reading
we
them.
would send it in subsequently. So I would attach, so yeah, guess I should explain that. I would, you wouldn't send this directly to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. What I would do is I would package it up and submit it with the application at the time of submission.
Okay, all right, I got it now. All right, because I was trying to do what comes first, so I was getting
Yeah, no,
stuck on that.
that makes
All right.
sense. Yeah.
Okay, so I think to make this official, I would look for a motion that would approve a support letter for the Long Island Sound Futures Fund to be submitted to Bruce in anticipation of being included in the town of Groton's application. Is there?
I
a
move
second?
that we do that.
That's a second.
And
I
a second.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, Bruce, figure out. Somebody motioned it and somebody seconded it. Okay.
All right, I got Kristen and Ann.
Okay. Discussion. All right. Tom?
Yeah, the basic thing is here, I have no problem adding anything to it that if you feel you have more information. I don't personally have more information to add to it, but I have no problem having more additional information put in here before you sign it. It would help anything as far as to move this forward because we were so close last year. I understand the need for adding additional information so it helps sells the project as the town wants to go forward with it. Thank you.
All right, that's no problem. Yeah, I beefed up the last letter we put in. I put a lot more stuff in it because I went around and got it. So that's what I was saying is that if I can find more supporting evidence, then I would throw it in there. Karen, you had your hand up. You're on mute.
Muted, Karen.
Karen, you're on mute. Karen, I cannot hear you. There
I
you
was
go.
just going to say, I used to write federal grants in one of my careers. And what's really important in some of these letters is if you take the thrust of what they're looking for, when you look at that RFP, I don't know if you have it or not, but if you look at that RFP, if there are specific things they're looking for in that grant, and you can tie that into Downtown Mystic, they look very favorably on it.
Yep, I think I got a volunteer to help beef this letter up.
I'd be glad to help you write it. I don't know if I can get a copy of the RFP to just take a quick look at it or
Bruce,
not.
Yeah, I'd be happy to send it to you both.
Yeah. I'm
Is
sure
it like 100? How many pages is it? You know?
20, it's either 12 or 21. I'm not sure.
All right,
Usually
that's
I look
easy.
at that.
That's easy, as long as it's
Oh,
not 200.
It's basically playing to the criteria of the evaluation. No, absolutely. So yeah, no, I'd love some help with that. So that's great. So I can sign it for the commission, and I'd love to have your work to update and beef this up a little bit. That was my only comment, is I thought we could do a little more robust explanation of why. All right, that's all. But I thank Bruce for getting this going. Don't take that as a negative,
Oh,
Bruce.
yeah.
So we'll help out. All right. So Karen, if you can do that, it looks like when does it have to be submitted? You said by the 27th?
Yeah. So we have a month.
All right. So
I'll do that
means-
as soon as I get it.
Yeah. So that means we need it like a next no more than 10 days to turn this around back to Bruce so he can build it into the package.
Yep.
All right. Very good.
Are we voting? This point of order here, are we voting on this one yet? Because we made a motion.
Thank you. There's a motion. We had the discussion. We didn't do a vote. That's good. He's keeping me honest. All right. So I call for a vote on the plan as established. All in favor? Let's see, hand raised. 1, 2, 3. I do not see hands up. All right. Another unanimous. Gee, boy, what about, there is no division in the town of Groton.
Yeah.
We're
Very
Thank you,
contentious
everyone.
group.
we're united. Maybe we should replace Congress. We can't do any worse. Let's see. That was number 4.5. 4.6. All
Well,
right.
Where we did have the other submittal. So we had one from the Eastern Connecticut Conservation District too on there.
Oh,
Did you, if you go up
did I skip that
the
one?
agenda packet?
That's the one.
Under
I wrote down.
attachments.
Oh, attachments.
Yeah.
That one? Okay.
Yes, so we got this request, it went to a lot of people, but this is from Maura Roby. And Larry and I actually met with her on something else today, but this is a pollinator pathways project that she wants to do in the town of Groton and in the city, and also in Ledger and Preston too. But she reached out to a lot of people. You did as a commission endorse this grant application last year. She was kind of in the same boat as us. I think they came really close, but they didn't get it. And from the sound of it, it sounds like that she is and the Conservation District are pretty enthusiastic that they'll get one this year too. So again, I submitted a draft recommendation letter. It's very similar to the one the commission submitted last year. So you may want to look at this and review this as well to see if it's something you may want to endorse.
So that's this one. That's this one here.
Yes, correct.
All right. As I recall, Kristen, that you kind of drafted the one from last year, correct?
No, I have no recollection of drafting that letter whatsoever. It's possible that I did. I would have to see it to know that I did it. But I've been in touch with Maura. I wish I had known you guys were meeting with her today. I would have joined you, but she would also like us to try and identify somewhere within the town of Groton, someplace for either a rain garden or she's calling it a repairing pathway, but I think a rain garden, but a highly visible location. It wouldn't necessarily have to be town land. It could be a business, it could be private land, or it could be town land. So that was something that I was going to bring up regarding the pollinator pathway that we could all maybe address. But anyway, do we have a letter from last year?
Yep, it should be up. Oh, from last year.
Yeah, it's right here. This is the exact same thing from last year. I just changed a couple dates, and that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't write this. I don't know who did.
It could have been me. I don't know.
I'm sure that was you.
Well, okay.
All right. I guess there's two things. First of all, is the commission willing to support this now 2021 grant applications for the Future Funds program?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I hear a bunch of yeses. So there's I guess with a consensus agreement without objections, we will support this. I would ask Kristen, this is in the handout package. If you just look it over, this looks a little bit more complete, a little bit more depth, and if that meets with your approval, then just give me a heads up on it, and then I can get it out and get it back to Bruce.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Where does this go, Bruce? Now we talked about logistics.
Yeah, you could email this to me. I could get it tomorrow, or you could email it to Maura and CC me. That would work.
Okay, so Bruce and Maura. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Kristen for update or verification. Okay. All right, and then there's, I guess, boy, we're in the letter writing. So another. Oh, this is the one we already did, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So have we gone through all these? Now?
Yeah, that concludes Island Sounds Future Fund. Those are the only two.
Okay. Okay. So there's two things on, well, there's a couple things on Baker's Cove. And I guess from a generic point of view, we talked about having liaisons to different organizations. And I think, Tom, did you sign up to be the Baker's Cove liaison?
Yes, I have attended 2 of their prior meetings. For some reason, didn't get in. I missed the last one that was held. They meet quarterly. I did miss the January one. And their next, or excuse me, their April one. I attended the January one, missed the April one. And their next one will be in June. So, and I'm going to miss that because I'm going to be out of town and not available to participate on travel. But I will gladly continue being the Baker Cove person because I it's heavily involved with the development of the Birch Plain Creek stewardship plan. And so I'm very knowledgeable of what they're doing and working with it. But I would if someone could attend the June meeting. I think it's on the first Wednesday at 9 o'clock or so. I can get more information to them if there's anybody available to cover the meeting because they did ask for us to attend. But other than that, I will be the court of have that on my liaison as well as with the folks from the Groton Long Point.
All right. Is there a volunteer to cover for Tom at the June meeting?
Michelle, I'm not volunteering, but I'm noticing that in that second column, the first thing is about installing rain barrels and plant rain gardens. So these would be good people to talk to about that, it sounds like.
Did you say you are volunteering or you're not?
No,
volunteering?
no, I'm trying to suggest that maybe Krista might want to do this because of the rain garden thing.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I just know I have plane reservations and I'm just trying to figure out when they are. Yes.
Karen kind of had her hand hesitantly raised.
What's the date? What's the date again? Was it June 1st? What day is that?
June's.
He's looking.
Yeah, I'm looking. We'll get back to you. So if it's either Kristen or Karen, and I'll get back to you with the information.
I know I'm leaving town June 4th until June 14th.
Okay.
So I will not be in town.
Okay, I will pass the information. If we don't get anybody, that's fine too. It's not a critical item.
All right. No, I think that'd be great, Karen, to represent for that one meeting. It'll kind of get you into the swing of things a little bit on that one. Speaking of Baker's Cove, one of the items that we had, matter of fact, we had a meeting today at 1 o'clock. So as it turns out, Maura was working to clean up the, that creek was at the Plains.
Birch Plain.
Birch Plains Creek area that runs for like a mile and a half. But the observation that we made was that it runs through not just town property, but also private property, which has a whole bunch of other issues associated with it. So the suggestion we made back today was, and that I would bring to the council, or to the commission here, was because she asked for the commission support, was, look, it said if we're talking about a town property, number one. Number two is it kind of matches the parcel stewardship plans that we've got. And there's a third element to this, the Kiewit Corporation, which is coming to town to do construction on that pier in New London. You remember reading about that. So one of the things they do is they look for projects in the community, and their employees would donate time. And one of their thoughts was to donate time to do cleanup. So as I thought about it, and then I looked at the Birch Plain parcel plan, is to say, which runs right along that river or the creek, is to is say, let's conjoin these together. We could support the Bakers Cove Association. We can get some volunteer labor from, these employees coming to town. They're gonna be living here for probably 6-7 months. And have the town, provide the dumpsters or the transportation of whatever is picked up, because it is town property. So let me throw that out there. If there's a different town property along a creek, and Bray, you probably you're the resident expert on all this stuff on location. Is there a different parcel other than the one I just identified that would kind of fit the criteria here? Or Tom?
I'm not, I have to go back and relook at it, at the map, to help you out.
All right, okay.
I'm not sure. I'm hesitant to answer your question because I'm not positive at this time.
All right, because I mean, they did go in and identify some areas to clean up, and they did seem to be on that town property, on that parcel. So that was the only reason.
Yeah.
I
There's been areas, I just haven't researched this area relative to what they want. They've been working very closely with Groton Utilities and stuff, and have been going around trying to find people that would be potentially interested. I know they went to Groton Open Space Association to try to see if they're interested in looking at things. So it's been very hit or miss in regard to, and not a very coordinated effort in regard to the cleanup efforts.
I don't disagree. All I'm saying is I said the focus is on town property. It should be associated with the stewardship plans that we have, because you've identified some cleanup. I just want to say, if that all matches, then I think it would be a good idea for us to support it, and then join forces with a volunteer set of folks who can come in and do it. And we're talking about a day of investment on their part, with some oversight on our part, and empty trucks from the town. But yeah.
Just as a follow-up, one of the things and the reason I did not get involved too much with it from the Conservation Commission was that Michelle Maitland, who's the MS4 coordinator from the town for the town public works, is also a member of the Baker Cove watershed, and she has already worked, expressed the public works support that they could potentially, having trucks and stuff going to the dump and stuff. And so, it's really a coordination level with the public works folks for the town property portion. And what the problem is that she doesn't have a cadre of people. And from the Conservation Commission, we have a long-term goal of developing a cadre of people, of volunteers to go do things, but we haven't started that implementation. And so until we start that, I had not been willing to volunteer our resources yet, because we haven't really established them.
No, I don't disagree. All I'm saying is that we had a opportunity put into our lap of a set of resources, right, that potentially could be used. So that's all I'm saying, is that I hate to let an opportunity go to waste if in fact we can make use of it. Yeah, Michelle?
So all we have to say is that, we agree it's a good idea. I mean, we don't have to do anything, right?
No. Well, I mean,
So,
a little coordination.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
No, you don't have to put on boots, Michelle. How's that?
No, I mean, honestly, I suggested earlier about having, doing that coordination and what Tom was talking about. Eventually we want to have, here's a spreadsheet or database type thing. Here's the people we're contacting. Here's what we want to do, and take all of those things from the list, but we're not there yet. But this is the kind of thing we want to do. So yeah, if we have people that want to do it, they know where to do it. I mean, I don't see why we have to do anything with this particular time right now. Just let them go do a day of cleanup at Baker's Cove. They've got it organized already.
Well, they don't have it organized. That's my point.
Well, I thought Tom just said that
they got some general agreement that the town would support it, but that's all that's happened. So all I'm
Yep.
saying is that the thought was we would go through all these plans, like Tom said, we go through the plans. And then subsequently to that, we would, start to line up the execution of those plans. Now, this kind of came to mind that said, that I was thinking that we'd be looking for local residents around those particular parcels, for example, right, that have a vested interest.
Right.
This kind of brought up a whole new approach in my mind that says, well, wait a minute. If we could go to a company and have them sponsor a particular parcel and do, one day or something. I mean, so it brings up a whole different family of resources that we could potentially go after. Yeah, Tom?
Yep.
Just as a data point to put in your inventory of stuff. A week ago Saturday, up at Haley Farm, you had your Earth Day events. Groton Open Space sponsored, as one of the supporters of Haley Farm, a cleanup there for their organization, and they made an outreach to Covanta, who's the incinerator people, and they actually brought a team in, I think of 8 to 10 people that supplemented the Groton Open Space people at Haley Farm. And they volunteered to say, hey, I'm willing to work with other organizations that do cleanup type of stuff from environmental, because that's one of our key things as a corporation for cleanup. So they may want to go to Covanta, the incinerator people there in the local area here up in Preston, and coordinate it with their outreach people.
Yeah, but
a direct point of contact.
I'm agreeing. It's occurring to me that more and more corporations are willing to sponsor things like this as their civic good deeds and part of the green movement for their employees as well. So it's another avenue that I hadn't thought about. Anyway, let's get back to the question on the table. So the question on the table I have is that, is there, and I know this is ahead of the schedule we wanted, but is there a parcel that we can identify that we think would be worthy of support? The day they're looking for it, by the way, is June. So you got a set of resources available in June, right, for one day to clean up a parcel. Do we want to nominate a parcel that's part of our stewardship plan or not? That's really my question. Tom?
Well, if you're looking for a quick and easy success start, it would be the Joel property immediately south of the Electric Boat M lot parking lot off of Pequannock Road. It's very easy access. There's easy parking, and the trash is right next to the parking lot on the town property.
Okay. Could you send me a note on that?
Sure.
All right, I appreciate it. Yes, I am looking for something quick and easy, and it's a success story. That's it. I wasn't trying to create a whole new thing here yet. Yes, we'll get there. Karen, did you have your hand up?
I was just gonna say, if we all have to vote or something on it, I would defer to Tom because he's been on every single one of those properties so recently. He knows which ones would be easy to do.
All right, so are we in agreement that Tom will provide a recommendation? I'll feed it back across, see if I can get the volunteer resources, and we'll take a look at, see how it works. And I think the Covanta Corp idea, we'll keep that kind of on a list to see them and other corporations as we go forward on our plans to get some resources in addition to the community resources. I think that's a great approach, by the way. Corporations and community. Aha. Okay. Other comments on that? All right, I really was trying to wrap this up. We had a lot of stuff today. Plastics update. There was a Senate Bill 1037 that was put into the, I guess I'm still sharing, right? That was put into the package, given the fact that this is a Senate bill and they're going to be voting on it next month. I don't know, it's there for you to look at. There wasn't a lot in here other than the fact that it eliminated NIPS. I'm looking, I thought I did some, oh no, I'm sorry, wrong one. I went through and did some highlighting of my own. There we go. This is the one okay, bigger type too. So a couple of things that I saw in the bill is one, except. So the liquor industry got to them and they took out spirit or liquors 50 milliliters less. Oh gosh, that's a nip. So that was one thing that's excluded from it. The other thing is it does increase the amount of beverage containers covered on a to be refundable, and they're going to 10 cents rather than 5 cents. That's the second thing in the bill. And so there wasn't a lot of other things in here. Oh, and then there was a handling fee of 3.5 cents.
Yep.
So, basically for some of the not-for-profits that do the sorting and collecting of these things, there's something in there for them to make it easier to recover and recycle it. So it's not it doesn't really address NIPS, but it does, let's say, I think that was it. The rest is just a lot of political noise. So that's in there, and going through, I suspect that the fact that it doesn't have NIPS in there is going to probably make it go through easier unless somebody objects to the fact that it doesn't. So good news, bad news, guys. So that's what I got on that. Any comments, or anybody else have any additional data? Yeah, Karen?
I quickly read through this today, and the only comment I would make is that towards the end of it, there is a statement about in 2023, they have to see if 83% of spirit and wine bottles, glass, are recycled, and there's some way of assessing that. But I think the way it was worded is that if it's not at 83%, then in 2024, deposits on those will be instated or be considered or instated. And it wasn't clear to me which they meant, whether it really was going to.
Yeah.
So that's a way in the future. But
yeah, that was a kick the can down the road.
Yeah, that was a kick the can, exactly.
All right, Kristen?
I was going to say that we already, as a commission, expressed that requested that the town express support to the state for whatever bottle bills were being looked at. But I think what any of us could do individually, if we read through and feel that it's a good bill, that we could individually support it, not necessarily as a commission, but sort of spread the word among our networks that it could be supported.
All right, I'm kind of with you on that. So at this point, I don't have any action to propose. And if there's no further comments, we'll move right along. The next item on the agenda was the Pleasant Valley School. And I would say the status on that is tomorrow on 5/4, the town council is taking a vote to authorize the sale of the former Pleasant Valley School, and hereby recommends the sale and referral of the former Pleasant Valley School to the RTM for approval. Now, we supported development, but wanted to see how to protect that back 8 acres of forest, right? I mean, the commercialization would be in the front anyway. That's what we said last time. We'll see what happens. I think we'll see what happens. But anyway, tomorrow is that vote is there. Colonel Ledyard School, we've supported that in the past for development. It's 8 acres, 4 of which are already developed. Connecticut Trails Day. So again, we get the third time to thank Ann and Roger for the Trails Day video.
Larry,
yeah,
can you please
Michelle?
switch back to the agenda?
I thought that was the agenda.
Yeah, but we're still looking at your copy of the bill. We are not seeing the agenda on the
Oh,
screen.
right. Sorry, to get rid of that. All right, now I'm just reading off the agenda. All right, does anyone have any comments on the Trails Day from 2021, the virtual Trails Day? No, I mean, I almost got run over by 30 weapons carrying ladies on the Trails Day. They all had their walking sticks with little, very sharp, pointy ends. So, and there was a lot of them. So they had organized their own trail walk, I guess. So it was interesting. But that was kind of fun. That was all I had on it. All right, next was the report of chair. The only item is an update on the Yukon program. They did do work on updating the model. There's a review this Friday to present it, and I will make it available. They didn't actually change. They've made it look a little better and improve the usability of it, but they didn't substantially change any of the calculations or input data. So good news, bad news on that one. So, but I'll share that with you at our next meeting. So that's it for that. The last item on the agenda is report of staff, which is back to Bruce.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. Thank you for supporting the grant application. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to it.
All right. Any other new business that anyone would like to bring up?
Can I have a quick new business?
All right, shoot.
This is Ray. I've been sitting on a task force to replace a bridge in town. It's called the Groton Long Point Bridge.
Yes.
And the reason for just bringing it up is that the bridge needs to be replaced. Two things that are happening. One, they need to raise the bridge in order to get federal funding because of federal regulations about sustainability, and they want the bridge to be higher so that in the event of some sort of massive storm, that they can get most of the people off of Groton Long Point and Mumford Cove, knowing that it at a really good impact from a hurricane, the whole thing's going to be underwater anyway. But prior to that, so in the discussions sitting on the task force, we sort of came up and said, okay, we're going to raise the bridge about 2.5 feet. The problem with it is on the western side, which is where Groton Long Point is, they also have to raise the road bed. And if you're familiar with going into Groton Long Point, there's some houses that are really close to the road, right on the water, and it's going to impact their front yard. The reason for bringing it up tonight is that one of the proposals, which the task force has supported, is in establishing a sidewalk that goes from Esper Point Beach to the bridge, across the bridge, and into up to the first road that comes out of Groton Long Point, East Shore Road, left. There is no sidewalk currently.
Right.
And to put that sidewalk in is obviously to get people off the road so they can safely go back and forth through that area. And the funding for this particular bridge, that the feds would fund something like 80% of it, would also include the sidewalk. So the board has approved moving ahead to see about it. The biggest problem with that additional sidewalk is that between the bridge and the Groton Long Point First Street,
There's no,
who owns the right of way? So NOAC zoning is put their R in the water. The town of Groton Public Works, who is heading up this task force, put their R in the water. And now Groton Long Point claims that it's actually their property and they don't want the sidewalk. If the sidewalk goes in, one of the houses on the left, and so if you are going into Groton Long Point, there's a gentleman who's built a house right up against the road. His driveway and his front comes out into the road.
Yep.
A large house for that spot. He's going to lose probably 15 or 20 feet of his property if that sidewalk goes in. So it right now the town attorneys, Groton Long Point attorneys are trying to figure out who owns the right of way in there. Public Works, Greg Hanover says that, oh, we do, we've been maintaining the road and so forth, and Public Works from Groton Long Point comes back and says, oh, no, we own that, we're in charge of it. So I just want to just get a general sense from the Conservation Commission support an extension of a sidewalk going from Esco Point Beach into Groton Point up to East Shore Road. I felt that it's a good thing.
Well, I mean, as somebody that walks that path, there is a safety. I mean, I kind of twinge every time I kind of dash across the bridge and then go up on the side of the road and I walk on people's, I guess I'm walking on people's property. I feel a little twitchy, but there's no place else to walk, right? You know, when cars are coming. So I think from a safety point of view, that makes a lot of sense. The rest of the matter, I'm not sure what the Conservation Commission, you know, input would be on this thing. So I mean, explain it to me. That's my personal opinion, but.
Well, one of the reasons I'm sitting on the task force is to look at the environmental impact on the causeway underneath during construction that they might do that affects off the site into Long Island Sound. We've commented over the years on other projects that are along the shoreline, looking at during the time of construction, make sure that we're very careful that keep everything on site and that it doesn't have runoff. Having said that, that's a little further down the line. Have an opportunity just to say, we don't need any formal at this point because we don't even know if the sidewalk will exist. But there was I'll say 7 people voted for the sidewalk and 1 person did not. And I just, because I'm representing the Conservation Commission on the task force, and I haven't, we've had about 5 months of meetings that I haven't brought anything for you because it didn't say anything to be of a sort of discussion. But the only discussion point at this point would be support for having a sidewalk.
Okay, so you're basically saying you'd like to make a motion that the Conservation Commission support the sidewalk for safety that connects the beach property up into the Long Point area. Is that basically what you're asking for?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll take it as that's your motion. Is there a second to Ray's motion? Tom Olson is seconded. Discussion. Michelle?
I'm still trying to understand why it has anything to do with us. I mean, it's not about open space, it's about safety. And I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I just don't understand why we have an opinion.
We have, in the past, we have supported sidewalks where there weren't any. One is on the South Hill. Route 1, when you come from Groton into Mystic, you come up over the top of the hill. There's a cemetery off on the left at the top of the hill before you get to the firehouse. And there hadn't been a sidewalk there, and there was no sidewalk from downtown Mystic to get down to other neighborhoods that are at the bottom of the hill toward Judson Avenue or Stanton Farms, those areas. And the town was able to negotiate and put in a sidewalk that's there now. It looks like it's been there for a long time. But so we have made, put our shovel in the sand, so to speak, to speak on these issues. Thinking that it's safety, it gets people off the street, and also it's a connector for people. In this case, you could come from downtown Mystic and you can walk down the bottom of the hill and go for a walk at Pequot Woods. And now there's
Access and safety, I think is the point.
Yes.
But I think the other point is Bray is representing us, has been asked to represent us on that group. So he's asking for our input. Other questions? Tom?
Yeah, I agree with what Bray is saying here relative to being able to have accessibility from town property to town property and through, particularly in this area where you putting the sidewalk in and crossing a high traffic area is helpful because you've got the Esker Point Beach area over to the conservation areas that are maintained by the Groton Long Point Conservation Commission. Put that sidewalk is a critical element in being able to have accessibility between the two conservation areas. So I agree with that. We should be supporting the sidewalk.
All right. Other comments?
I have a question.
Yep.
Why can't the sidewalk be on the other side of the street where the people have more property and then a crossover to left to go down Shore Road? Has that been considered, Bray?
Yes.
And was there a reason that they,
The sidewalk is chosen is on the south side.
yep,
On the north side, if you were to put the sidewalk where the Fisherman Restaurant is, across his property, across the bridge, and they are raising in between the bridge and East Shore Road, they're actually going to raise the roadbed in some places maybe as much as 3 feet.
oh, wow, okay,
And to go from the road to have a shoulder, a bank on either side, and then enter those people's property driveways.
right,
About a 20% grade.
yeah, that's way, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call for a vote on the motion on the floor. All in favor? Let's do a show of hands. I see Tom, Bray, Kristen, Ann, Michelle. I cannot see Karen. Could you vocalize your vote, Karen?
Yes,
Yeah.
Say, Karen's frozen.
Yeah, she's frozen. Her voice is, but the picture is. All right, okay. So you got that, Bruce?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Bray. Other new business or any other new business? All right, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Tom has made a motion. Michelle second. Any discussion? I guess not. All in favor? Where's my hand? There's my hand. All right. That's a unanimous. Wait a minute, I don't see Ann's hand. Oh, okay. That's a Karen. I can't see you.
you can't see me?
No,
No.
Well, I agree. My hand is raised.
So that's unanimous. Hey guys, we've got a lot done tonight. So my thanks to all of you and have a great, what is this, April, May? This is
May.
May.
May. All right, and Tom, you're gonna get your butt back home, aren't you?
I'll be back in a couple of on Wednesday. I come back into town. So
All right.
get off the beach here.
It's off the beach. All right. All
All
right,
right, have a good night, everyone.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Very
not nice.
nice.
Oh, yeah,
Not
sorry about
nice.
that.
Good
My
night.
pool down here.
All right, bye.